Thanks so much for joining us here on Timeless 106.1 FM KFFB. And as we've been promoting, we do have Stone County Judge Stacey Avey with us right now. And Stacey, I appreciate you taking time and talking with us about you having the coronavirus and the recovery from that coronavirus. One, it was a shock to all of us when you came exposed to it. Tell us how all this came down.
Well, Bob, back in March, it was on the 20th day of March. I was in one of my employees' office one day, and we'd already started the social distancing and a lot of the rules and things that we're doing now. And anyway, we didn't know that he had the virus, so I had been in his office. About the next morning, he started coming down with symptoms, so he went and got tested on a Friday, and he got his test back on Sunday, and he called me and he said, you're now quarantined, because he was in my office Thursday. I didn't think much about it. I thought, well, I won't get this because I'm healthy and I feel fine. So I started quarantining. That was 14 days ago. 3 days into that quarantine, I started getting the symptoms: headaches, backaches, muscle aches, cramps, and just symptoms. And I thought, well, it's not going to be too bad. As it progressed and went on, it just started turning into the fevers and affecting my breathing, and just it got worse and worse. And luckily, I started recovering Friday. I'm getting better each day.
Tell us a little bit about it. People say it's worse than the flu. Describe the symptoms. What did you first realize this wasn't the flu?
Well, of course, I went and got tested when I started getting those flu-like symptoms, and it was 5 days before I got my test backs. But I had the backaches, muscle aches, headaches, and then I started getting those fevers. Every night I was getting high fevers, and then during the day I'd get some fevers, and I just felt terrible. I've never felt anything kind of like this. You really feel terrible. And then the problem with it is there's nothing you can really take to help it except for the Tylenol. So you're kind of hanging out there with not a lot of stuff to take, and you're really, really sick.
Now, how's that affected some of your employees? Did anybody else come down with it?
No, sir. Just me and the one employee that I was with that day. And we had several that was quarantined, and they went off their quarantine Thursday. So none of them ever came down sick.
Now, what about your family? How did they handle you? Did they wear spacesuits? I mean, it's one of those things that you kind of feel like the boy in the bubble, probably.
Yeah, it's not a really good feeling, but my wife, luckily, she hadn't had any symptoms, and she's took a test for it. We hadn't got her test results back, but she's been doing 100% during the whole deal. That's kind of amazing that I was just in a guy's office for 20 minutes and got the virus, and then, of course, we've been together this 14 days of quarantine. We've been quarantined together, so she hadn't had it. So it's just a weird way it works.
Well, that's what Lewis Short, that does a lot of our coverage for the election coverage every year, he said the same thing. He got it worse than his wife, and that's something that is not the numbers, because we look at the numbers, 60% of women, there's more women that get this in Arkansas so far to 40% men. So it's one of those viruses they really can't get numbers on. They don't really understand it that much.
No. And when you ask questions about it, there's not a lot of answers. The Arkansas Department of Health keeps up with the people that's tested positive. They'll call you about every other day and ask you about your symptoms and talk to you about the COVID-19, but there's a lot of studies being done and a lot of work being done on trying to come up with a solution.
That's why the social distancing, I know you went right in effect. We started that back in March, I guess the 16th or so. And I know that's when we talked with you on the radio about that week, because you were quarantined at that time, last time we did an interview. And
that's right.
And that's one thing we can say about Arkansas. The restaurants have stepped up. We're seeing gloves. We're seeing plexiglass go up everywhere. And everyone is working on that social distancing, daytime only at the parks, keeping folks out that's traveling. Also, they can't spend the night. They're also got the hotels where it's for certain personnel and emergency personnel only. So I think we've got this licked if we can all just observe the social distancing, quarantined if we think we've been exposed.
That's right. I think we're going to have to all work together, to make this thing subside and go away, because, we just can't have the big gatherings like we're used to having here. One of these days this will go away.
That's right. Well, Stacey, we appreciate you taking your time and talking with us and sharing your story, because that puts a face, unfortunately. You don't want to be that face of the someone that has got it and has been on the radio and can talk a little bit about it.
Well, I just want to thank everybody out there. I've had lots of phone calls, a lot of texts, and a lot of messages sent, people praying for me and my family, and I really appreciate it because when you're really, really sick and all you've got is a bottle of Tylenol, you really, really want somebody to be praying.
Absolutely. This is not one of those things that you probably felt like you need to be the winner of. So out of all the county judges we've interviewed in the region, you're the one that got it. So I know that's not a thing that you'd like to remember very often.
No, that's one of the things that you really don't want to win or get.
That's right. Well, we encourage folks to work on that social distancing, and let's only go to town if you need to go to town, especially for those essential workers. They've got to go to work, but let's all work on this together. And washing our hands, I'm a hand washer. I've always had antibacterial soap at all my laboratories, but I'm telling you, I've been using a bottle a week just about. I've been a little paranoid myself. So, and it's something you and I were together not long before that, and we don't know where this came from. Have they tracked it where it actually came from?
No, the gentleman I had been in the office with, he don't know where he received it, so it just kind of come out. He was the first one in this area that had got it.
Yeah, so I know that's it's broke the 5 mark in Stone County as of yesterday at 1:30. So that's big news for Stone County, getting out of the 1 to 4, because they don't tell you how many. But once you get to 5, they start counting it up and ticking up. But one thing, we did have some good news from the news conference yesterday from the governor, and that was Arkansas is below the curve where they thought they would be. So we're ahead of it a little bit. So that's good news.
That's good.
Well, Stacey, Stone County Judge Stacey Avey with us right now, and thank you so much for taking time and talking with us.
Thanks, Bob.
Timeless 106.1 KFFB. Stay tuned. We got Fox News coming at the top of the hour like we do every hour, 24 hours a day, keeping you updated on this coronavirus. Bottom of the hour on your way to work, on your way to lunch, and on your way home. We have a Fox News Minute followed by the Arkansas Radio Network with state and regional news and local news with KFFB Today with Dale Gardner. Stay tuned for the news.